I also received a written question, and which I felt is very important. In this question, I spoke about the great scholar Aryabhat. He is not a Buddhist, and he is not from Nalanda, and he is also from Takshashila. There are such stories, so he wants to confirm whether it's true or not, and I feel that it's true. And as a present in India, there I can say that there is not anyone who agrees Aryabhat as a Buddhist. And one of the great science institution in Bangalore, we can find Aryabhat's statue, and that statue is constructed in the form of a Brahmin rather than a monk. He is a great scholar of astrology and also science. And these two subjects are not very relevant to a Buddhist society. Therefore, the Buddhist communities do not feel the need to take care of him. After Buddhism declined in India, and therefore the people also do not get to receive any teachings of Aryabhat. So therefore, they all feel that he is a Brahmin. Especially at the time of Aryabhat, it's around the 5th century, around the 5th or 6th century, in the early 6th century. Today, a lot of historians, they explain that Nalanda University came after 5th century. They assert that Nalanda University came after 5th century. Therefore, those scholars who came before 5th century cannot be counted as a scholar of Nalanda. In our Buddhist community, we do not do much research with respect to these historical facts. To prove that Aryabhat is a Buddhist scholar, at those time, those opponents who criticize Aryabhat's views are non-Buddhist scholars who have composed many books, and they consider the Aryabhat as their opponent, and when they refer to him, they refer to him as a bald-headed monk, and when the non-Buddhists refer to him as a bald-headed uh, Buddhist monk. So therefore, whenever they refer to someone as a bald head, it's always they refer to as a Buddhist monk, because normally the Brahmins and the non-Buddhist schools, they keep long hair. We have also such references that come very often in the Vinaya texts, where the monks were referred to as someone with a bald head. So at that time, the non-Buddhist opponents, when they criticize Aryabhat view, they refer to him as a Buddhist, as they refer to him as a bald head. And there are other historians who feel that he may not be a Buddhist because his study mainly focused on astrology, research about the stars in the sky and galaxies, and he has also many instruments to use for his research. And today we call in English term the planetarium, and the objects used to measure the heat of the sun and moon and so on. There's also a historical account which says that there is a big planetarium within the Nalanda University. Generally speaking, Takshashila and Nalanda are very far from each other in terms of distance, and in those times the relation and communication between these universities is very large. I can never say that, or no one can confirm that Aryabhat never went to Takshashila. But to assert the point that Aryabhat is a Nalanda scholar, we can find evidence from the literal sources. And also, one of the Bhutanese Acharya from Varanasi, he also did a research on Aryabhat, and he also have presented a picture. And one of the citations that he used in his book, his encyclopedia, he took some reference from it. If you go to any place where there is statue of Aryabhat, you will also always find Aryabhat in a Brahmin form. So therefore, as I stated before, the non-Buddhist scholars always took him as a bald head. So therefore, it is a good confirmation and a proof that he is a Buddhist scholar. Nalanda is actually a village before Lord Buddha was born in the Rajgir city. And when there are uh, uh, debate competitions, and when they win some debate, they were offered a part of land. And one later, when Shariputra became Arahat, the one called no more learned. So therefore, it was converted into a place for a study, and it proves that even during the Lord Buddha's time, there are many scholars. The presence of monk sangha in Nalanda. The reason why I spoke that there before the starting of the Western so-called the century, there are many evidence in terms of archaeological survey. There are many findings which all point towards that the Nalanda exists after 5th century, and they were not able to find anything before the 4th century. And I wanted to draw a distinction here that what something is not found cannot be considered as something that can never exist. And during Lord Buddha's time, this is also a place, a residential place for the scholar. And at that time, there are a lot of accounts where the non-Buddhist scholars go to a king and stage a debate with the Buddhist scholars. And at that time, the kings or the ministers cannot provide any wealth or land to everyone that who wins a debate. Therefore, otherwise the king may be empty of all the wealth and treasure. So therefore, for many generations, the Nalanda is considered. So Nalanda is actually for many generations belong to the families of Shariputra. And later, Sharipu started the community of Sangha in Nalanda. So the presence of a planetarium within the Nalanda University during the Aryabhat's time, I feel that in future researchers and experiments will prove that existence. And in today's scientific excavations done, we can see that only a small portion of Nalanda has been excavated, and the whole part of Nalanda are now today many villages and the towns, so it is impossible to do a whole excavations. So a small portion of the Nalanda land that has been excavated today proves about the existence of those universities. In future, if we have opportunity to more excavation, I'm sure that many more new findings, many more treasures will be found. And then if you ask any Indian scholar, of course, they will always say he is a Brahmin, and they will never say he is a Buddhist. Even at the time of his period, if you take it into historical account, he cannot be confirmed as a Nalanda master. But if you have interest to know more about this issue, there is one philosophy account that Aryabhat wrote. I forgot the name. It's something called Pat. And there are many other critic texts that we find with respect to the Aryabhata text. If you read those critic texts by non-Buddhist scholars, then you will be more clear about who Aryabhata is and his period. With respect to Rinpoche, I have two questions. The first one is with respect to the great Indian scholar about J. Krishnamurti. He count Rinpoche, you spoke about some qualities of the tradition as having a divine or a continuous lineage. And in our monasteries, uh, we have a habit of doing a lot of recitations during our off season. So, what do you think about that? The question was not very clear, so Rinpoche is reading his question now. I think to summarize the question, it was with the question with respect to a practice that we have in the monastic community. During the off session, within every 2 months, we have a 15 days duration where we devote much of our time in the morning and evening to do recitation and memorization. So he was asking whether that is something, a necessary part of our curriculum study. The philosophy of Jiddu Krishnamurti, he criticized all the traditional system, and also he criticized the modern education system. So therefore, when we speak about the tradition, it's not merely about the repetition or imitation. He all feel that he used the English term repetitive when he referred to explain tradition, that everything that we study in tradition is always repetition. For example, when we do recitation of mantras, we used to recite the same mantra again and again. And he feels that with the repetition, study with related to repetition, it will not be able uh, to free away from the clinking or the net of our mind, afflicted mind. So therefore, he is always very critical of critic of with respect to tradition. But the way he criticized the tradition is very varied, and his philosophy itself is very deep and very complicated. We will not be able to go very detailed, elaborate on it in a short time. So let us keep the Krishnamurti aside. And if you're interested to know about Krishnamurti, you must read many books that he composed. And one of the book is called Curious of Teaching. Then another called Commentary of Life. These are very small or short books. If you read these two books, then you will understand what Krishnamurti speaks about. If you read that book, then you will understand how about his critics with respect to traditional system. His critique for both tradition and the modernity, the main ambition or the goal is that in today's time, both of these two uh, add to the strength of the self-interest. It is not able to reduce the self-centered feeling. It always add to the growth of self-centered feeling. So that is his point. And when I speak about the continuous lineage, when we speak about an uninterrupted lineage, it's not about imitation or copying someone else. First, it is very important that the beginning or the lineage should be start from a valid person or a valid text. Especially when we speak about the continuity of scriptural teachings and blessing, it has to pass from one person to another. And when we speak about the vows, pratimoksha vows, it has to pass from one person to another. And if the continuity, if the flow is interrupted, then we will not be able to generate new pratimoksha vows. So imitation is normally referred to something to do similar one, but not the actual one. When we speak about lineage, it is a flow of the actual phenomena itself. Therefore, the imitation and the lineage are two different things. We also have a tradition of memorizing a lot of texts, and the memorization is a kind of a pillar for foundation for our study, and how it benefits our study is that all the texts that we study, whether it's the sutra or the commentary text, if you remember or can by heart recite all the verses and the phrases, then to elaborate or to understand further, then you will be able to understand the meaning at one place without straying away from the main meaning. So memorization is a very important point to understand the main core. When you study the Abhidharma, if you do not memorize the root text of Abhidharma or the Vinaya Sutra by Vasubandhu and Gunaprabha, without the memorization, it will be very difficult for you to think about the different branches and the root and so on. Normally, we have a saying that the old man of the meaning has to depend on his walking stick, which is the phrase or the verse. So, if someone who do not memorize the root text, maybe he will be able to point out a few stanzas or the meaning for the purpose of debate. So, even though he may remember a part of that, but the whole meaning of the text from the beginning to the end, with that too in the right order, it is impossible without being able to memorize it. At present, we have one defect, a mistake in this study of Buddhist philosophical studies, that our commentaries are very far away from the root. Those who have studied the Prajnaparamita Sutra for many years, but they will not be able to understand the literal meaning of the Madhyamika Avataranama, the root text. And many commentaries you will not be able to understand from which stanza of the root text it originates or which it's referring to. In terms of Gundang Champeyan, one of the greatest Tibetan Buddhist scholar, he memorized the commentary on Maitreya's Abhisamaya Alamkara, and he also memorized And by the result of his composition of a very detailed commentary on the root text and the commentary of Abhidhamma Alamgara. So therefore, he says that he will remember or can recollect every part of the stanzas and verses of the root text of Abhisamaya by heart. And the golden rosary of the commentary to the Paramitra Sutra by Lama Tsongkhapa is a very vast text. So if you do not memorize the root text, it is impossible to remember the whole text. And when you meditate about all the uh, content of the text, with also with respect to applying it to the root text, it is very important to have memorization. If we feel that if we can just understand a few important meaning of the text, then the Maitreya do not have the necessary to take so much trouble to write a huge commentary, a very lengthy root text. Therefore, within the framework of the text, it is very important to memorize the text, which is something without which we cannot study our philosophical texts. So therefore, if you can recite the whole any of the text, it will be very helpful to you in your study. My respect and good afternoon to everyone. I have a small question. As being a student, we learn a lot of things. We always feel that we always have an inspiration and that we wanted to study very hard, but always there are a lot of distractions. And is there any measure that can make us not stray away from the main topic without being distracted? When you study, one of the main reason why your mind stray away from the education or the study is a main obstacle for good study. As you present in your question, it is really true, especially in today's world when there are a lot of sources of distractions. To concentrate single pointedly to one object or the field is very difficult. It has a decline. Therefore, in order to achieve such a concentration, what are the means to actualize that? You asked me about that. I do not have any shortcut or a swift answer that can make your mind not stray away from your topic. The important thing is you should be able to recognize yourself that your mind is straying away from education or study. So for that purpose, actually, in order to retain your mind concentrated on the object, as we speak, you need to train in the calm abiding meditation, the shamatha meditation, and also the preparatory part, such as the how to place your mind to the object, which is called the meditation of placement. So the preparatory to shamatha meditation, which are placing your mind to a certain object, for example, your breathing, or for example, concentrating or placing your mind and counting the number of breathing, or also to your feeling and emotions, is very important. And today in India, he passed away, a great acharya, Sat Narayan Goenka. There was a new invention. There was an invention by one of the Myanmar Buddhist scholar that how to gain the Vipassana meditation in 10 days. In 10 days, first you contemplate about your breathing. After that, you have to meditate about concentration with respect to your physical and your emotions. And if you're able to do that, then of course your mind will be able to concentrate on your object. And people say that if you practice that, of course, it increases your capacity of concentration. And people told me such experience. I do not know whether that's a fact or not. While he was alive, he was a good friend of me, and but I've never been to his uh, his concept of that meditation. Generally speaking, when we speak about shamatha meditation or calm abiding meditation, it is impossible to gain an authentic meditative mind in 10 days. But his concept of 10 days vipassana meditation has been very helpful to many people whose 10 days rigorous practice on vipassana meditation has become a great step ahead to practice the real meditation. So this is a great helpful method. In our Tibetan society, we want to, in a few days, especially in the students, we in Tibetan society, sorry, we do not have such a concept of shamatha meditation or vipassana meditation in a short duration. Maybe if we are able to initiate such a concept, it may be very helpful. In Western countries, I've seen mindful training a subject. I do not know, maybe it's only a few days practice. This is also something imitated from the Buddhist concept of meditation. So, due to the mindfulness meditation, uh, I feel that it may be helpful. In Tibetan tradition, the meditation of shamatha and vipassana are very deep and should be practiced for the long run, so may not be so helpful to the students. When we speak about mindfulness, it is also very related to many things that we use for our shamatha meditation about our the capacity of recollection and how to notice if there is any introspection and how to notice if there is any antidote arriving. When our mind becomes too excited or when our mind becomes low self-esteem or become excitement, so then how at that time how should we control and bring our concentration to the original state? The mindful training initiated by American scholars, you will find in many internet websites, so it may be helpful to you. Other than that, if you have 10 days vacation, you can have a 10 days vipassana meditation. You can find even some center in Bangalore who give a program of 10-day vipassana meditation. I'm sure that if you take that program, your concentration will increase. Other than that, in Tibetan tradition, you can also ask some scholars of Tibetan tradition about how the preparation path and preparation path with respect to shamatha meditation and how can one practice and make sure that we will be able to keep or place our mind at one place. I'm sorry that many people do not get opportunity to us. I'm requesting the representative of Abbott, Kishawandula, to convey the word of thanks. So today here, on the auspicious day of 80th birthday of His Holiness, and the topic with respect to the three commitment of His Holiness and other topics have organized a great debate and specially invited special guests, Chapter Samdhong Rinpoche, and other eminent guests, and many people who participate in this debate, the many reincarnated Lama and other Sangha. And I, on the behalf of the abbot of Sera Monastery, wanted to greet Rinpoche and everyone. May I read the text? First, the Sera School has organized this debate on the occasion of the 80th birth anniversary of His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, and also a debate along with that, as I presented before, the topic related to the three commitment of His Holiness. And there are many other topics about such as the traditional and modern curriculum, and also tradition and modern teaching methodology, and also teacher, student, and so on. Samdhong Rinpoche has spoken at very detail and length about these topics. I wanted to thank Rinpoche for that. I have also a few other persons to thank. May I do that in one order? First, during the organizations there's Jigmela, who's from the CTA, with respect to the PA system and the live telecast and his assistants. I wanted to thank him for his great work. And also during Rinpoche, when he speak, and we are doing the live telecast, and there's also English translation available. We have two interpreters here. I wanted to thank them also. And also with this debate, as yearly the Sera School publish the Rising annual newsletter. I also wanted to thank them for the distribution of the newsletter. And there are many people, students also, who ask questions, and also the teaching staff who assisted in the organizing of the ceremony, and also the kitchen masters and the assistants, Venerable Topkela and so on, who have worked very hard to provide the 3-time meal and tea and so on. So they have all worked very hard together to make this possible. I wanted to thank them. And there's also school's secretary Tefinla and Lobsang Rabdenla. So for the as a preparatory for the ceremony, they have worked very hard for the exhibition and the printing of so many banners and the printing publication and so on. I wanted to thank them for their great efforts. And for this school, the two directors and principal and all the other teaching staff, a headmaster. So all the stuff together combinedly work very hard to make this 2 days event a great success. I'm very thankful to them for the great work. have also a request with this. And our chief guest, Kyabje Samdhong Rinpoche, so Rinpoche has sacrificed whole his life at the service of His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama. Rinpoche spent whole his life at His Holiness' service. And even now, Rinpoche is continuing that great work. And I'm requesting on the behalf of all the monks that Rinpoche continue to help His Holiness with everything that he can. And also, Rinpoche, please guide us in whatever, whether it's religious or the politics or any of the university or the monastics, you please guide us time and again. In 2 days, our conference, it's not for the benefit of a business or anything as organized by school. They have aimed for the benefit of the whole Dharma and for whole sentient beings. So therefore, there is a huge merit accumulated by such an event. So I hope, so with that merit, may His Holiness live for thousands of years, and may His Holiness be able to benefit millions of sentient beings, and may he be able to return back to the golden throne at Potala Palace. Thank you. Please proceed to upstairs for dinner.